Hello, guten Tag, jó napot kívánok, dzień dobry, hola, bonjour, pozdravljeni. Okay, I'm out of them. So this is a video that I've been meaning to do for so long because I don't know if anyone out there relates to this topic, but I find the differences between American and European food extremely fascinating. Especially when it comes to something like a franchise, which is what McDonald's is. And this topic is just so mind-blowing to me, and it's always funny to read TripAdvisor reviews of European McDonald's because especially if American tourists visit, they will be like,
oh my god, you guys have apple slices on the menu? What do you mean I can actually get a normal decent salad? Impossible.
And I thought that it could make a very good topic for an actual long-form video. So here we are, that's what we're doing today. I am gonna compare European McDonald's to American McDonald's and precisely Slovenian McDonald's because that's where I am from. And the first big difference, obviously, since Slovenia is a smaller country, is that we have, according to the statistics that I have found recently, 28 McDonald's locations and 11 of them are in the capital city. And the biggest difference to begin with is that we don't have a lot of drive-through McDonald's. In America, I noticed that there are mostly standalone McDonald's locations, that they are their own building, and in most cases they will have a drive-through unless they are obviously tucked away within an airport. I mean, obviously it's a drive-through in an airport I don't think that would be safe. I don't think it would even make sense. How would you just drive a car through TSA? Would they open the hood to check you don't have okay, never mind. Let's move on. So in Slovenia, a lot of them are actually tucked within buildings, and I think that's what makes it a little bit different because you will have this architecture, insanely beautiful architecture, historic building, and then within it you'll just find a McDonald's. And I've noticed that is the case in a lot of European cities. So we are not big on drive-through. We like to sit down and eat our meal at a table. I have never eaten a meal in a car before, unless it was an 8-hour long road trip or stuff like that, until I got to America. I understand now with the traffic why it makes sense that there are so much drive-through locations here for so much fast food, because people legitimately get stuck in traffic for hours commuting from work and to work, and the only time that they can actually eat a meal is in the car. And I find that extremely unwell for digestive system, but that's a story for another video. But yes, Slovenia has 11 locations out of 28 in the capital. The oldest one is on Čapova Street, which is one of the most busy streets and visited streets in Ljubljana, the capital of Slovenia. And we got our first location in 1993, so 2 years after Slovenia became independent. And to this day, that is a location that still attracts a lot of visitors. If you sit at specific tables, you can have the view of a bookstore and a street, and it almost doesn't give you a feeling like you're sitting in a fast food place. It's almost like an experience, and that's like how I see McDonald's back home. It doesn't give me like this fast food experience because it has to do a lot with location. It will be in this, archaic building surrounded by beautiful architecture, and you're almost like, oh, this almost makes me feel like I'm not putting garbage in my body. But let's continue. In 2009, also the European McDonald's developed their own new logo, which was completely different from the red and yellow that everyone is used to, and they implemented green, which was a symbol of their mission to be more environmentally friendly. So it confused some people because they were like, why the colors? That's why. But I think the most interesting difference is the menu. Oh my god, you will not believe how different the menu is from European to American McDonald's. I had to think about what I was talking about a little bit over there. Brain fart. So the first major difference that you will notice in the menu is that in Europe it's very much categorized. You will have fish dishes in a separate tab, then you will have chicken and some other meat, I believe, and then you will have a veggie offer, and that is the huge difference. The biggest difference is that there are a lot more vegetarian items on the menu. And fun fact, in the United States, fries are not vegetarian in McDonald's. What? They are actually made with a natural beef flavor. And in other countries, they are vegetarian and vegan because they are prepared in vegetable oils. So that was something that I wasn't aware for a long time. Oftentimes in United States locations, they will also use milk to prepare the fries. And if you look at European locations, especially Slovenian locations, they have recently also started adding plant-based options, which is finally like, yes, we are in 2025 and people do not want to eat meat all the time. I was pleasantly surprised on my last visit because I actually walked into McDonald's to make this video, but then it was so packed that I kind of got camera shy, so I didn't really film anything in that store. But I did notice on the menu that they had plant-based burger and they had other plant-based options. So you will have McPlant Steakhouse now, a double McPlant Steakhouse, a normal McPlant, then you have vegetarian option, which is a burger with spinach, with a patty from spinach and cheese. Other vegetarian options include a wrap with spinach and cheese patties, plant fresh wrap, that is a plant-based version. Then you will also have a giant salad. One of them will just be veg. That's another difference. The salad is actually massive. There was lettuce in there and spinach and tomatoes and carrots, and it didn't taste like plastic. Only once I got salad in McDonald's when I went with my friends to eat there in the States, and lettuce tasted like I'm tasting plastic. And the tomato was basically flavorless. So it makes a difference. And it was like a tiny salad. These ones are like, you get them in the box and they are massive. At least you would have vegetarian snacks or wraps available for the longest, I think for at least the past 8 years. And I actually have a funny story when it comes to that, because when I first moved to the States, it was maybe a year and a half after moving here, and I got done with school really late, and then I had to catch a bus home and I was really hungry. And I ran to the closest McDonald's to get myself a little snack because I knew that would be the fastest way to get it. And I walk in there and I asked them if they have the vegetarian, the wrap with the one I'm used to, the spinach and cheese. And the guy looked at me like I am from another planet. He was like, no. And I'm like, okay, but do you have veggie burger? He's like, lady, do you understand you're in McDonald's? And I'm like, I do, but do you, what? You guys don't have, do you have any vegetarian options right now? No, this is McDonald's. And I'm like, oh, this is different. This is very different. Now you understand where my culture shock comes from and where my silly questions come from, because I was raised in Europe where we have vegetarian options in McDonald's. I have noticed that European or Slovenian McDonald's started adding breakfast to their menus, which are pretty much very foreign type of breakfast. You will have egg McMuffin and you will have bacon and cheese toast that doesn't look like toast and stuff like that. That is not something that Slovenians usually eat for breakfast. I know that this was added exclusively for tourists because Slovenians would not do that for breakfast. Our breakfast is a lot lighter. Our breakfast usually consists of a piece of bread with butter and honey, or apples, maybe oatmeal or granola with yogurt, A lot of people will do yogurt and a piece of fruit and maybe a piece of bread and stuff like that. Very light on the stomach. So this is definitely creative for tourists. And I also know they added buckets now, the party buckets. We don't tend to order that type of stuff with 30 McNuggets buckets. One thing that I want to point out is that, which is what shocks American customers, is that the sauces, you gotta pay for them. And every sauce is, I think, 30 cents, something like that, or 75 cents. I don't remember. But it's not like in the States where you're roll up and you're like, hey, can you give me 20 sweet and sour sauces? Every additional sauce is paid for. I think it has to do with reducing the food waste, because then you only purchase whatever you're gonna need and whatever you're absolutely gonna eat. If you get all of these sauces for free, I've seen people be done with their meal and then dump all of the unopened sauces in the trash bin. And I've seen there's a lot of food waste actually in the States, which is a topic for another video. But I have seen if people get lunch boxes and there would be sandwich and chips in there, unopened chips and a cookie and like a piece of fruit, they will get the sandwich out and maybe the fruit, but they don't like the cookies and they don't like the chips, but they will throw the entire lunch box away with untouched, unopened cookie, untouched, unopened chips. And it drives me crazy when I see that. It drives me absolutely bananas. And the same with sauces. If they don't use it, off the trash it goes. It's tainted now. I touched it with my fingers, even though it's unopened. It breathed the same air I breathed, so now it's trash. And I feel like European McDonald's charges for sauces to prevent food waste. Because if you gotta pay for it, then you're gonna be a little less greedy when it comes to sauce. One major differences that also surprises Americans is the coffee. So in American, McDonald's, you will always have the coffees that almost taste like dessert. They are caloric as crazy. Like even a simple latte will have so much sugar in there. And the coffees would just be all these frappe and mochas and all of that stuff. And when you actually look at coffee, it is something different in European McDonald's. And it is very simple. You will have espresso, you will have a macchiato, coffee with milk, bigger coffee with milk, Americano, latte, which is usually coffee just with extra amount of milk, and then extra large latte. And then you will have maybe iced coffee coconut with some whipped cream. And it will not be prepared like an iced coffee in the States. Iced coffee in the States means ice, coffee, whatever other toppings you want, unless it's blended. In Europe, in some restaurants or bars, iced coffee is coffee, ice cream, and then milk. I actually forgot that that's the case. I've been in the States for so long that I forget what kind of coffee Europe has. That is embarrassing. I came up to the McCafe to get a coffee to go, to take the train home. And I was like, oh yeah, can you just get me the drip coffee with ice? And she's like, the what coffee? And I was like, yeah, the one from the... Oh, because it's not normal that McDonald's or coffee places prepare a large pot of coffee and then just, pour from that. Usually the coffee is prepared one by one, unless it's a cold brew. So she made me an espresso, actually Americano, and then I was like, okay, can you then put some ice in it? And she was like, oh yeah, of course. And she puts 1 cube and I'm like, just a little more, just like it's really hot outside. And she's like, okay. And then she gives me a lot of ice in there. And I had that cup of coffee actually in a cup that is usually used for hot coffee. And I was walking around with that iced coffee because also you will not have plastic cups for coffee in majority of cafe places, including McDonald's. You will have these these cups of coffee, even if you get it to go, even if it's iced. So it feels very strange to be drinking an iced coffee from a cup that is meant for hot coffee. So I can't believe I forgot. I felt like such an ass because I was speaking Slovenian and she was looking at me like I'm not from there, and I was like, oh shit. Yeah, one day I want to make a video on reverse cultural shocks. If you'd be interested in that, just let me know in the comments, because it's definitely real. When you've been living in another country for so long, at first, yes, you get the culture shock of that country, but then you get reverse culture shock when you visit your homeland and you feel like the biggest ass. So let me know if you would be interested in that. So when you look at desserts, we're paying attention now to mostly Slovenian McDonald's because that's the most experience I have. So if you look at dessert, for example, it would be the apple pie. It would be fruit, like fruit jelly, not fruit jelly. Basically just mashed fruit. You will have tiny donuts, and then you will also have an option of an apple. Ice creams and shakes in a separate tab, and the portions are much smaller. Last but not least, European Happy Meal is completely different than United States. In the United States, you will have a Happy Meal with the classic burger or 4-piece nuggets or 8-piece. First big difference is that you can choose a Happy Meal with a toy, or you can choose a Happy Meal with a book, which I think is extremely smart. And then for the main course, you have an option of chicken burger, hamburger, cheeseburger, or McNuggets. And for the side, you can choose either an apple, salad, or small fries. And for the drinks, you have the normal ones, the Coca-Cola, Coca-Cola Zero, Fanta Zero, Sprite Zero, orange juice and apple juice. And then obviously you have a toy. So you can actually choose which type of main course you will have. It gives you a little more variety, and for the side they also offer salads. Also, another big difference, especially in Slovenia, is that students, they have a discount. It's kind of like a student stamp that you get, and the meals in certain locations and certain restaurants will be reduced to accommodate the student budget. And McDonald's in Slovenia does that. You have a separate tab with student menus, and you can choose between the classic menu, the meat menu, the fish menu, the salad menu, or the vegetarian menu. It will be with a little bit smaller portions, but it will also be a lot cheaper than if you just got the adult non-student menu and you just need to be a student and have like the student card and stuff like that. So then you get, obviously you get the main thing, the side, the salad, and the drink included in the student menu. So students have a chance to eat cheaper at a lot of locations that offer food, and including McDonald's. And that brings me to the end of this video. I am very curious to hear your experience when it comes to McDonald's, and if you traveled from Europe to America or vice versa, have you noticed these types of differences? These are the topics that I think about and that I'm interested about. So let me know if there are any other topics when it comes to Europe and America that you would like me to make a video on. And don't forget to subscribe and check out my membership page and my Patreon and Instagram and all that fun stuff. And I'll see you in the next video. Bye!